A synecdoche is a literary device in which a part of something represents the whole, or it may use a whole to represent a part, such as using the word suit to refer to a businessman, or glasses referring to spectacles, the frames, and the glass portion. In the film Synecdoche, New York, the city, the whole, is replicated within an impossibly large warehouse, the part. It's also a play on the word Schenectady, a town north of New York City. That doesn't really begin to explain what this film is about, does it? Caden Cotard is a theater director. His wife, Adele, takes a vacation in Germany with their daughter, Olive, but never returns. Caden, through a grant, creates a massive theater project that eventually becomes a second New York within a warehouse. He struggles to find the meaning of his play, the meaning of his life, and a connection between himself and a variety of women. As work on the play progresses, the line between the real world and his simulacrum is blurred, and Caden is incapable of finishing both his play and finding happiness in his life. There's a lot of talk in the film about truth, a lot about finding something real in art, as if realism is the highest concern of the artist, the most important goal. Caden and Adele are both artists, the former as a stage director and the latter as a painter. Caden receives a grant that allows him to create a full-scale replica of New York City, this huge, massive project, whereas Adele works in miniature paintings. As the narrative progresses, Caden's stage gets bigger and more unwieldy, and Adele's paintings become smaller and harder to see without magnification. Caden's work is obscure. Nobody has even seen his play, whatever it even is, and Adele has become one of the world's most famous artists. Caden mistakenly believes the literal reflection of truth in art. He seems to think that the realness of the art is the most significant aspect of it, that imitating reality is the real truth and a noble pursuit. Charlie Kaufman, the writer and director, deals more in surrealism, the examination of what is inside us, the psychological. Caden's surname, Cotard, is a reference to the Cotard delusion, a rare psychological ailment in which the afflicted person believes he or she is already dead. Caden is not dead. This is not The Sixth Sense, that's not some weird twist, but he is not truly living his life. That's the point. One actor describes him as being in a state of stillness, of inaction, as he creates this massive production while the world around him changes, and time passes without him noticing it. Caden does not literally have Cotard delusion within the narrative of the film. He doesn't meet all the criteria. So it's more of a reference to the emotional landscape of his world. Caden believes himself to be gravely ill throughout the film, but not already dead. Though in a terrible twist, he is one of the few characters to live through the entire narrative, as most everyone else has perished in some unnamed catastrophe. Kaufman seems to have an interest in rare psychological disorders, also referencing Capgras delusion in the film, the disorder that afflicts someone to believe people have been replaced by near-identical duplicates. Not to mention Fragoli delusion in Anomalisa, his most recent film. Anyway, Caden is portrayed by multiple actors as he becomes a character within his own play. He learns more about himself through these characters, these symbols, in an almost Jungian progression of self-realization. In understanding himself and others, Caden can truly see others, and that individuals are synecdoches of all humanity, pieces of the whole. Sam, the man who was eventually cast in the role of Caden in the play, has been following Caden for years. Upon hearing of this, Caden dismisses the criminal behavior and gives him the role. It makes sense within the magical realism of the film, the accepted impossibilities within the narrative. If the audience pays careful attention, they can actually see Sam pop up earlier in the film from time to time. Barely seen, and never speaking any dialogue until the revelation that he has been following Caden. But Sam is not simply another bizarre character. He seems more like a portent of death, a grim reaper of sorts, not literally within the narrative, but within the context of what he does. He follows Caden, unseen but always there, like a shadow, like a threat. Sam, while on the set and playing Caden, commits suicide, a prophecy of Caden's own inevitable demise. Caden takes issue with this not because he lost an acquaintance, but because he, the real Caden, has not killed himself. In spite of all the misery of his life, he has not committed suicide. He is insulted that Sam, that death, brought up the topic. Earlier in the film, Caden asks why someone killed himself, and the therapist says, "Why did you?" Only it appears more in Caden's mind. She repeats herself and says something more innocuous when Caden hears her again. The threat of death is there. The threat of suicide is there, but Caden has seen his life through to the end. The film only ends when he dies. Though, as Caden himself says in one scene, his play is about more than just death, and by extension, so is this film.
And even though the world goes on for eons and eons, you are only here for a fraction of a second.
Time, how we perceive it and how it passes by, is central to the film. In the beginning, when Caden reads the newspaper, the date shows that it is October 14th. Moments later, it says October 17th. Caden notices that his milk expired on October 20th, suggesting it is past that date. They also mentioned Halloween, suggesting, all of a sudden, that we are now seeing him at the end of the month. His daughter believes it is Tuesday, but Caden believes it is Friday. There's more, though. He has young actors play the elderly in his production of Death of a Salesman. Months pass, as evidenced by his dentist appointments, but he mistakenly believes that his wife, Adele, has only been in Germany for about a week. All of these instances point to our perception of time, how quickly it moves by without our noticing it. Caden's daughter, Olive, accidentally leaves her diary behind when she is taken to Germany. Over the years, Caden reads from it as if his daughter had been still writing in it. It's impossible, but it fits the magical realism of the film. It's not supposed to be possible. It merely reflects the disjointed and incalculable ways that we see and feel the passage of time, as opposed to the simple arrow moving forward that it always is. Caden reads the impossible diary, but he can't actually change the past. We all live with the decisions that we make, and the decisions that are made for us. It all ends the same way. We all die, but in our decisions we are choosing the path that takes us there. In a way, we are all choosing how we die, the only certainty. Early in the film, Hazel purchases a house that is always on fire. She is unsure about the purchase, to which the real estate agent says, "It's a big decision, how one prefers to die." Hazel made her choice to live there. In the end, she dies due to smoke inhalation, shortly after revealing her feelings to Caden. Much earlier in the film, Caden and Hazel discuss The Trial by Franz Kafka. This foreshadows future events in the film as it ends with the protagonist's death after a series of disasters and madness and howling at an unforgiving world. We make choices that last throughout our lives, affecting other choices, which affect others, and so on, ad infinitum. Caden's decisions lead him to his own death, his head on the shoulder of someone who is practically a stranger, dying in his gigantic stage for his play that never really got off the ground. He would have died anyway, we all do, but the choices he made brought him to this point, to this death. Kaufman's works, whether as screenwriter previously, or more recently, writer/director, so frequently follow the life of a sad, lonely man. Synecdoche, New York exists in the world of theater. Naturally, that categorizes his work as postmodern, that is, deconstructing the art form using said art form. But it seems more personal than that. Kaufman's work lives in his world of entertainment and art, but also can't escape his own mind, his own neuroses, his own depression. This is not an armchair diagnosis. He has said he has suffered from depression. Writers write what they know, and Kaufman knows this. He knows himself. Kaufman once said, "I do believe you have a wound too. I do believe it is both specific to you and common to everyone. I do believe it is the thing about you that must be hidden and protected. It is the thing that must be tap danced over 5 shows a day. It is the thing that won't be interesting to other people if revealed. It is the thing that makes you weak and pathetic." It is the thing that truly, truly, truly makes loving you impossible. It is your secret, even from yourself. But it is the thing that wants to live. Depression, loneliness, sadness. When you're a depressive, you spend a lot of time in your own mind. It can't be helped. It's not self-indulgence or a forced solipsism. It's self-consciousness. The external world seems so frightening and so dangerous and so completely filled with ways in which to humiliate yourself that the only safe place is within. And it's not great in there, in the mind. It's uncomfortable and full of self-judgments, and spending too much time thinking about why you are so miserable ends up fetishizing your unhappiness. But it's familiar in there. It's comfortable because there are no surprises. Nothing to worry about except your worries. Thanks for watching the latest episode of Renegade Cut, everyone. If you want to support the show, you can click the orange link to my Patreon. That's how all of this happens. If you want to subscribe and never miss an episode, click on the red link. If you want to watch more, there are some recommended videos below. I'll see you next week for another episode.